My husband, Leonhard Parrish, lost his memory after a car accident. He remembered everyone except me. He had forgotten our 10 years together. Instead, he held his young secretary close, his gaze icy as it locked on me. Apologized to Yoli. I thought his memory was damaged, that he had mistaken Yolanda Drexler for me. Later, I realized he was only pretending. So, to get back at him, I pretended to have amnesia too and seduced his best friend. Leonhard had missed my calls again, and we'd had a terrible fight. To make it up to me, he drove through a storm to get me durian, and that was when he had a car accident. When I heard that, my mind went blank. A chill ran through me, sharp and sudden. I didn't stop to change. I ran out, not even noticing when I lost a slipper. When I found his hospital room, Neville Criswell, in his doctor's coat, was just stepping out. He looked startled to see me. Theodora, you're soaked through, soaking wet and messy. I didn't care. I asked anxiously, choking on my words. Leo, how is Leo? Tears welling in my eyes. Neville looked away. Well, he hit his head, he said evasively. But he's all right. Is he in there? As I moved for the door, Neville stopped me. Theodora, wait. Let me finish. The way he held back made my stomach tighten again. Are you hiding something from me? Is he truly all right? Neville nodded, then pointed to his own head. He hit his head. Things are a bit off. I don't know how to explain. You'll see. But promise me, no matter what you see, you won't get upset. The whole way to the hospital, I'd been consumed with regret. I shouldn't have lost my temper or started that argument. If anything happened to him, I didn't want to live either. If he were okay now, I'd do anything. I'd never fight with him again. But I never expected, when I pushed that door open, to see my husband gently holding a young, stylish woman in a white dress. Her name was Yolanda Drexler, Leonhard's secretary. But because I didn't like her, he had let her go a month ago. Our fight today had been about her. Disturbed by the noise, Yolanda saw me and quickly pushed away Leonhard, flustered. Seeing her there, my chest tightened. I turned a cold stare to the man in the bed. Leonhard met my gaze with a frown, his eyes unfamiliar. The bandage around his forehead made my heart twist with guilt. I started to step forward when he suddenly turned and asked Yolanda softly, "Who is she?" Yolanda glanced at me, nervous, and stammered. She's Miss Turner." Leonhard held out his hand. Yolanda placed hers in his palm. "A friend of ours?" Yolanda shook her head quickly. When I saw their joined hands, rage surged from deep inside me. Leonhard looked at me again. Those once tender eyes were now filled with pure disgust and annoyance. I realized what was happening. My eyes widened in disbelief. "Did you lose your—" I began, my voice shaking. "Out." He spat the word coldly and sharply, cutting me off. Leonhard and I had been together for 10 years, in total 7 years dating, and 3 years married. In those 10 years, he had never spoken harshly to me. Even when we argued, he usually gave way, letting me vent my anger and frustration. Once I had calmed down, he would come over, hold me, and make things right. The fiercest words he'd ever said to me were, "Theodora, haven't you had enough?" Today was no different. But then he apologized, took his keys, and offered to get me durian. It never occurred to me that he would leave for just a short while and come back having forgotten me entirely. "Leonhard, I am your wife." I spoke up, stating the fact clearly. I thought he would immediately let go of her hand and draw a clear line with Yolanda. But he didn't. Leonhard just frowned, studying me from head to toe. His gaze paused for a second on my mud-stained feet before he stated coolly and decisively, "You're not my type." I froze for a moment. I could still remember when Leonhard knelt on one knee to propose. Holding the ring, he had said to me with sincerity, "Dora, if you don't marry me, I'll die alone. Have pity on me, please." Back then, I was deeply moved, but I suppressed my joy and responded with a haughty hum. "I don't believe that. I'm not the only woman in the world, but you're the only one for me. I can't live without you." The image of that gentle, earnest young man overlapped with the cold-faced man before me. Tears welled up uncontrollably. Looking at the bandage wrapped around his forehead, I told myself, Leonhard has just lost his memory. He wasn't hurt. He's still alive. That's what matters. He will remember our past eventually. Remember I am his wife. We have plenty of time left together. It's okay. We can take our time. Leonhard didn't believe I was his wife. The next day, I brought our marriage certificate to show him. He looked at the names and the date on the document and was silent for a long while. I watched every slight change in his expression closely and asked softly, full of hope, "Does any of this look familiar?" As Leonhard lifted his head and fixed me with that distant, icy stare, a chill ran through me. All the hope I'd managed to gather dissolved on the spot. He still didn't remember. Just then, the hospital room door opened from the outside. Yolanda's sweet, cheerful voice floated in. "Leo, I made you clam chowder and ravioli you like. You should try it." Her voice cut off abruptly. Yolanda's face was tense and uneasy as she looked at me. "Miss Turner, you're here again?" Hearing how she addressed Leonhard ignited the anger that had been building inside me. If not for her, I wouldn't have fought with Leonhard. If we hadn't fought, he wouldn't have driven at night to buy me durian, had the accident, or lost his memory. Everything that had happened these past days made it impossible for me to maintain my usual elegance and composure. I walked straight over, raised my hand, and slapped her hard across the face. My voice was filled with resentment and rage. "Miss Drexler, I've made it clear before. Leonhard is a married man. He is my husband. I suggest you keep your feelings in check and keep your distance. Have you no sense of decency? What kind of upbringing lets you act this way?" Yolanda covered her face and turned to run out. But Leonhard, who had gotten out of bed, caught her. Drawing her close, he patted her back, his face dark. His icy stare was fixed on me as he demanded, "Apologize." My heart ached as I watched the man who had once loved me deeply now hold another woman in front of me and demand that I apologize to her. I would never apologize to a woman who was eyeing my husband. "Leonhard, we are really married. You are my husband. That's the truth. If you don't believe the marriage certificate, come with me to the city hall to check the records. 3 years ago. What difference does it make?" I was desperate to make him believe me, but seeing his reaction only made my heart sink further. Leonhard stared at me, his gaze cold and sharp. "Yoli told me everything last night. She told me you're my wife, that our families are close, and I married you because of that arrangement. But I never loved you." "She's lying. We fell in love on our own. You pursued me. You said I was the only one you loved. That's enough." Leonhard cut me off, his voice thick with disgust. "You sent me out in that storm, didn't you? I could never love someone so spoiled and unreasonable." "Have you asked yourself why you agreed? To make me happy. You cared. I care for gentle women, like Yoli." The words hurt, even though I knew he wasn't himself. Yolanda, safely tucked against him, glanced my way when he wasn't looking and offered a faint, triumphant smile. Then she tugged timidly at his sleeve and said in a choked voice, "Leo, I should go. This feels wrong." Leonhard held her closer. Looking down, he murmured gently, "It's not your fault. I don't want to let you go." The pain inside me sharpened. When he looked back at me, all softness was gone. "Listen, Miss Turner," he said, his tone cold. "Even with my memory intact, a woman like I would never have lasted. I'm with Yoli now. Leave us alone." Arguing or losing my temper was pointless now. 238 vouchers. You and I forced the emotions down and tried to calm down. Then I remembered. I looked at my hand and held it up. "Leonhard, this ring. You gave it to me. It matches yours. You had them made for us." His eyes dropped to my hand. For a split second, I thought I saw something flicker in them. Our initials were engraved inside. "T, my forever lover. You said those words to me." I slid the ring off my finger and offered it to him. He just stared, his expression unreadable. We held each other's gaze for a few seconds. A faint hope rose in me. Then Yolanda lifted her head, puffing her cheeks in a show of irritation. Leo, the ravioli I brought is turning cold. I woke up at dawn to make these, If you let them go to waste, I'm never cooking for you again. Her petulant tone made my face harden. Leonard snapped out of it. He ran a hand over her hair and smiled fondly. Let's eat now. Beaming, she looped her arm through his and began leading him back to the bedside. Leonard, will you at least look at it? He paused and glanced back. Then, without a word, he pulled the ring from his own finger and tossed it into the wastebasket beside the bed. His answer was clear. Leonard and I grew up together. Our houses were right across from each other. Mom always said that aside from a decent face, I was hopelessly naive. Worried I'd be taken advantage of later, and after 2 difficult pregnancies, she finally had a son when I was 7. After my brother was born, her temper grew shorter. If I didn't understand my homework after she explained it twice, she'd kick me out. I sat on the hallway steps crying until Leonard and Adeline Parrish, his mother, came home from his after-school tutoring and took me to their home. Adeline was an upper-grade math teacher and homeroom instructor. When she learned I'd been locked out over homework, she patted my head and told me I could always do my schoolwork at their place. She said I could ask her or Leonard anything I didn't understand. Leonard was in my grade in class, and he was our class president, responsible and helpful. He said it was his obligation to help improve my grades. With help from Adeline and Leonard, my grades gradually got better. Mom was too busy with my brother to pay me much mind. Seeing my improvement, she didn't care where I was and often didn't even call me home for dinner. I was closer to Leonard and Adeline than to my own family. Before college, Leonard and I attended the same schools. Before the SAT, Leonard asked me which university I wanted to attend. I didn't have a particular school in mind. I just wanted to go to a college far away from home. Leonard suggested we apply to the same school so we wouldn't be alone. I didn't object. Leonard was 3 months older, and I'd always seen him as an older brother. We both got into Yale University. Right after the new student orientation, Leonard asked me to be his girlfriend. I said yes quickly. Transitioning from seeing him as a brother to a boyfriend came easily. Leonard was handsome, athletic, and academically sharp. In an age saturated with teen dramas, he fit every young girl's ideal. He was also incredibly kind and attentive to me. After all our time together, it would have been impossible not to have feelings for him. We dated for 7 years. We only got married after a startup succeeded. My classmates all envied me. We were each other's first love, childhood sweethearts who went all the way from campus to the altar. Sure, we had our fights and even split up for a while, but we stayed true to what we had and made it through together. Of all the couples in our class, we were the only ones who ended up together. We both had successful careers and a happy home. We were what anyone would call the perfect couple. I considered myself incredibly lucky and deeply happy. It never once crossed my mind that Leonard could ever fall in love with someone else. I first heard the name Yolanda from Leonard when we were out on a date at a restaurant. His phone rang. On the other end was a nervous, hesitant young woman's voice, first apologizing, then breaking into tears. Leonard didn't go easy on her. Use your head, he snapped. Mixing up 2 clients' reports is inexcusable. This is basic stuff. I had always known Leonard as polite and elegant. That was the first time I had heard him speak so harshly to anyone, especially a young woman. After he hung up, I asked, wasn't that too hard on her? His expression was grim. Keeping her employed is a kindness. Anyone else would have been fired already. Then why not let her go? Al hesitated before explaining. She came from nothing and worked hard to get here. Her mom raised her and her brother on her own after their father died young. Now her mother's health is failing. I nodded, understanding that Leonard likely saw his own mother's struggles reflected in Yolanda's mother's story. Mom once told me that Leonard's father had left his family for another woman just 3 years after they moved in across from us. He disappeared completely. Adeline raised Leonard alone, covering the mortgage and all his expenses on a teacher's salary. It wasn't easy. I always knew Leonard was a genuinely kind person. I remembered how he'd taken my hand and led me into his home. Over time, Leonard mentioned Yolanda often. If she handled something well, he'd openly compliment her to me, calling her sharp, diligent, and full of potential. He spoke of her like a mentor proud of a promising intern. I didn't pay it much mind until the night Yolanda helped a drunk Leonard home. The way she gazed at him, the way she told me to fix him honey lemonade and helped him with his jacket, it felt too much like a wife's role. Something about it didn't sit right with me. I told myself I was imagining things. I trusted Leonard's character, believing he would never cross that line with the secretary. But on Mom's birthday, we were on our way to the party when his phone rang. He told me a key client was visiting, and he had to go entertain them. He didn't come home that night, even well past midnight. Worried, I called him. Yolanda answered. She said Leonard had too much to drink and was resting at a hotel. I asked for the address. She refused and hung up. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, Leonard came home early to change. We fought, and I insisted he let her go. Yesterday was when I found his messages to her. That was what set off our argument. I didn't know whether Leonard had truly lost his memory or if he had simply fallen for someone else. Neville handed me 2 durians. Theodora, don't you trust Leo's character? After all these years together, have you ever seen him mess around with anyone? When you 2 broke up back then, so many women threw themselves at him, but he stayed faithful. He bought you breakfast and waited outside your dorm, trying to win you back. A man that devoted doesn't just change his heart overnight. You know that. I pressed my lips together tightly. So, he really has amnesia? Neville nodded earnestly. It's likely temporary. There's some bruising and swelling in his brain. Once that subsides, his memories should return. But he remembers Yolanda. It's probably just his memory playing tricks on him. He could be confusing her with you. My expression remained cold. We don't look alike. Our personalities are nothing alike. Neville adopted a placating tone. She isn't half as lovely as you are. She's just better at sweet talking, that's all. Didn't you tell Leonard I'm his wife? I did. Neville's face fell. Look, you know how stubborn he is. He's not in a place to listen, not to you, not to me. He gets upset whenever you're brought up. As his physician, I need to consider his state of mind. I looked down at the 2 durians in my hands. They felt heavy, mirroring the weight in my chest. I didn't know what to do. Neville continued. Theodora, you and Leo have had several arguments lately. He once told me he wished you'd comfort him sometimes. I wonder if that desire is buried somewhere in his subconscious, and that's why he's drawn to someone gentler now. Maybe he's hoping you'll make the first move this time. I froze. I thought about our past arguments. It was always Leonard who came to me afterward. Please don't be too upset. As his doctor, I assure you Leo will recover eventually. As for that secretary, she's just a distraction while his memory is gone. Once he recovers, it will be over. Don't dwell on it. Would Leonard ever recover? How could I help him? Neville had pointed out that I was always the one arguing, and that Leonard wished I would sometimes be the one to make peace. I didn't know how to do that. Thinking of how Yolanda had prepared meals for him, I decided to cook something myself. Mom had always favored my brother, but she never taught me housework. She used to say that a capable woman would end up carrying all the burden, and she hoped I'd learn to rely on others. Instead, over the years, Leonard did most of the cooking, unless we were getting food delivered. The memory made me soften. After a morning spent following online recipes, I packed the somewhat edible food into a container and brought it to the hospital. But when I opened the door to his room, I found them on the bed, kissing passionately. My mind went blank. Disturbed, they broke apart. Yolanda's cheeks flushed as she pushed Leonard away, hurriedly straightening her clothes as she got off the bed. Miss Turner, you should have knocked. I had knocked. They just hadn't heard. I stared at her glistening lips and Leonard's eyes, clouded with passion I had once believed was reserved only for me. But he had been locked in a passionate kiss with another woman. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Even knowing he'd lost his memory, I couldn't accept it. It felt disgusting. The air in the room suddenly felt sickening. I didn't go in. I just turned and left. On my way downstairs, I ran into Neville and Benedict Foley. Theodora, here to see Leo again? Neville greeted me with a smile. But when he noticed my red-rimmed eyes, his brow lifted. Did he upset you? I wiped my eyes, too weary to explain. He did, I said quietly, not wanting to share what I'd just seen with anyone who knew us. Noticing the container in my hand, Neville smoothly changed the subject. You brought Leo food. Before I could respond, he took it from me. Spotting the bandage on my finger, he looked surprised. Did you make this yourself? After a steadying breath, I nodded. Let me take it up for you, he offered, and motioned for Benedict to join him. A few steps toward the elevators, Neville realized the other man wasn't following. He stopped and glanced back. Ben, what is it? Nothing. Benedict's gaze lingered on my long, slender legs until my graceful figure vanished from sight. Only then did he turn back, unhurried, and continue walking. After what I witnessed at the hospital, I had no desire to return. Not long after, Leonard was discharged. But he didn't come home. Rumor had it he'd bought a new place and moved in with Yolanda. Neville called to reassure me. He suggested I keep my distance for a while. Leonard's head injury wasn't severe, he explained, and his memory would likely return before long. I asked him how long it would take. 3 months, he said. Maybe 6. But even if Leonard remembered everything, he was already unfaithful. How could I possibly act as if nothing happened? In the dead of night, the image of them kissing would force its way into my mind. The thought of the man I loved now sharing a bed with someone else turned my stomach. I'd find myself rushing to the bathroom, heaving, unable to sleep. Part of me wanted to find Leonard, to drag him back home. But I knew it was pointless. He wouldn't come with me until he recovered. Right now, he couldn't stand the sight of me. My phone vibrated, jarring in the silent bedroom. I didn't even turn off the tap before rushing to answer. I picked up and held it to my ear. Mom's voice came through, panicked. Romy's in trouble. You need to help him. Jerome Turner was my brother. From her fragmented explanation, I pieced it together. That evening, he'd taken his girlfriend out for her birthday. At a casual diner, someone harassed her. A fight broke out, and Jerome ended up at the police station. The other party's parents were threatening to press charges to make sure he spent the rest of his life in prison. Jerome was in his final year of university. He was everything to Mom. She pleaded with me to ask Leonard for help, to see if he could reason with the family. Listening to her weep made me weary. Jerome was still family. I'd seen him grow from a boy into a young man. Though I resented our mother, I didn't feel the same way about him. All right, I said. I'll talk to Leonard. The call ended and a dull headache set in. Leonard had lost his memory. He wanted nothing to do with me. The chances he'd help were slim, but I had to try. I dialed his number. He answered. I spoke before he could. Leo, it's about my brother. He's in some legal trouble. Can you help? No reply came. Faint sounds of a passionate kiss came through, along with a man's labored, hurried breaths. Before I could speak again, a woman's playful voice broke in. Leo, you're so into this today. You like the nurse outfit, don't you? Should I get a school uniform next? You can be the teacher. Leonard's reply came out low and unhurried. Sure. My mind went blank. My blood ran cold. The sound of foil being torn was unmistakable. Realizing what was happening on the other end of the line, I hung up instantly. Nausea washed over me. Clapping a hand over my mouth, I ran back to the bathroom. After I was done, I felt shaky and drained. I turned off the tap, leaned on the wall for support, and stepped out, tears falling without stop. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while, numb. Then, remembering Jerome, I picked up my phone again and scrolled through my WhatsApp contacts. I needed to find someone else who could help. Aside from Leonard, no one in my social circle had a serious influence. Neville was just a doctor. He wouldn't be able to do much. My finger paused over a contact named 13. Who was this? I opened the chat, only to see one message. This is Benedict Foley. He was the heir to the Foley family in New Haven, Leonard's investor. He undoubtedly had more power and reach than Leonard ever did. Whether he would help was another question. I'd only met him a couple of times over dinner with Leonard. At this point, I had no other options. Setting aside my pride, I typed out a message. Hello. After I sent the message, I instantly regretted it. It sounded so awkward. He probably didn't even remember me. I was about to withdraw it and try call instead when his reply popped up. Theodora Turner? He remembered me. Yes, this is Theodora, Leonard's wife. Mr. Foley, we met at the hospital. I'm sorry to bother you, but my brother's gotten into some legal trouble. Could you possibly help? I sent it, already feeling presumptuous. It was after 11. Who would ask for a favor this late? He was probably annoyed. I fully expected to be ignored or even blocked. Instead, he called me. My pulse quickened. Seeing his name, I answered after only a slight hesitation. A low, steady voice came through. Tell me what's wrong. I summarized my brother's issue as concisely as I could. Give me a moment, he said, and hung up. It felt unreal. Was Benedict actually helping me? Just past midnight, Mom called. Jerome and the other family had reached an agreement. I opened WhatsApp and sent Benedict a message. Thank you so much. His reply came quickly. That's all. He was still awake. Can I buy you dinner? Sure. His agreement left me uneasy. With Leonard's memory gone, I'd be dining with Benedict by myself. I pushed the thought aside, ready to figure it out tomorrow. I finished the exchange and was ready to turn in for the night when my phone pinged. An unfamiliar number had sent me a text containing just a video. I pressed play. The content was explicit. The man's face was clearly visible. It was my husband, Leonard. I knew exactly who had sent it. A wave of disgust hit me. My first impulse was to delete it and block the number. But on second thought, I stopped myself. Instead, I saved the video. From the moment I found out about their affair, I lived in a state of constant anguish. I couldn't accept that my husband was being intimate with another woman. Yet he had amnesia. How could I hold it against him? 288 vouchers. Instead, I blamed myself. If I hadn't argued with him so much, if I'd been better at comforting him, if I'd just stopped him from leaving that night, would things be different? Would we still be the happy couple we once were? We were 28, and we had been part of each other's lives for over 20 years. That kind of connection wasn't easily broken. It would hurt deeply to sever it. It was the same with our marriage. Yet everything felt contaminated. It was disgusting. I had no idea what to do next. My face in my hands, I was overcome by a deep, wrenching pain. I felt utterly trapped in darkness, with no way out. Aimlessly scrolling through WhatsApp, I found no one to confide in. A notification sounded. A message from BF. I tapped to open it. He had shared his location. Star Club. He was typing. A moment later, his message came. Want to join me? Looking outside, I saw only darkness. It was after 9. I had offered dinner, but it seemed too late now. He likely had dinner already, and Star Club wasn't the right place for a meal anyway. I was midway through making an excuse when he texted again. I saw Leonard and Neville. Your husband seems drunk. Want to come get him? I replied. On my way. At Star Club. How long is this thing with your secretary going to last, Leo? I paused at the door, hearing Neville's voice. Just 1 more month. That's enough for you to remember everything? Neville's joking tone felt like a knife twisting inside me. I stood there, completely chilled to the bone. I stared at the man inside the room in disbelief. He sat back on the sofa, legs apart, holding a glass of wine. He looked every bit the cultured, elegant man I knew, the one who had loved me deeply. But then he said, maybe I'll try a different type next. Why not? Neville replied, his tone carrying an unspoken meaning. While you're still recovering, you could try a couple more. No one's holding you back. My hand tightened on the door handle. Rage shot through me. Just then, Benedict glanced toward the door. Our eyes met. My heart lurched. I was about to push inside and confront them when Benedict casually shifted his gaze away and remarked, if you don't want to be accountable to anyone, you could always get a divorce. My hand froze on the door. That's pretty cheap. Leonhard countered, meeting Benedict's look with a serious expression. I'm not looking to replace my wife. A beat later, he added, I love Dora. Hearing him say love turned my stomach. If you love her, why deceive her? Doesn't that strike you as dishonorable? Leonhard and Benedict had always been on good terms, so he didn't take it as a rebuke. With only trusted friends present, he considered the question frankly. Like what Bill had said, if you eat the same thing every day for 10 years, no matter how much you once liked it, it starts to feel unsavory. Women are no different. Dora is the woman I love most, but she's almost 30. She can't really compete with girls in their early 20s. They're more energetic, more willing to try new things. Once you've experienced that, you realize youth has its own appeal. I envy you and Vil, still single. I could barely process his words. How could Leonhard say such things? The man inside bore no resemblance to the gentle, devoted husband I remembered. How could he be so repulsive? I didn't go in. Back in my car, I finally let the tears fall. 1,288 vouchers. The images of our life together flooded my mind. What I thought was a blissful marriage was rotten. Beneath his gentle, devoted facade, my husband was dishonorable. We had been part of each other's lives for over 20 years. How could he do this to me? Stopping at a red light, I gripped the steering wheel, my emotions in turmoil. The pain only grew sharper, a relentless ache deep in my chest. A green light flashed in my periphery. Acting out of habit, I hit the gas. A large truck suddenly turned into my lane. I yanked the wheel, and my car collided with a roadside planter. In the moments before I lost consciousness, I could make out a man running toward me. I woke in a hospital bed. Aside from a dull headache and some dizziness, I was otherwise unhurt. A nurse removed my four. Your husband stayed with you all night, she said. He just left to get you breakfast. He'll be back soon. I replied with a faint tension, staring blankly at the glaring sunlight outside, lost in thought. The nurse was on her way out when she opened the door and saw him, a sharp-looking man holding a takeout bag. She smiled over her shoulder at me. Your husband's back with breakfast. At the word husband, my heart twisted sharply. I lifted my head and saw Benedict. He shut the door and came toward me, breakfast in hand. No one else was with him. The elegant, well-dressed man approached my bedside. He studied me, and I gazed back, still disoriented. How are you feeling? His voice was deep and filled with concern. I shook my head, looking at him. Dressed simply in black, he carried an air of unmistakable authority. Even without knowing who he was, one could tell he was someone important. And with his tall, built frame and striking features, it was hard not to feel a quick impulse. Remembering how the nurse had looked at him, I let my eyes linger on his frame before offering a sweet smile. Don't worry, honey. I'm okay. He just put the breakfast down. The term made him pause. He turned with a frown. What did you call me? I blinked up at him and repeated gently, honey. The man's handsome brows furrowed even tighter. He stared at me for a while, then reached out to press the call button by the bed. Soon, a doctor and nurse came in to examine me. Benedict went out to talk with the doctor, while I stayed in the hospital room to have breakfast. When he came back in, I handed him the bowl and spoon. Honey, my hand hurts. Can you feed me? Please. Benedict looked into my luring, cat-like eyes, then glanced at the wound on my head. If I hadn't lost my memory, I would never look at him with such dependent and trusting eyes. Honey, my hand really, really hurts. Don't you feel sorry for your wife? Faced with my complaint, Benedict's Adam's apple bobbed, but in the end, he didn't say anything. He walked over and took the bowl and spoon from me. After I was full, I watched as the man packed up all the trash and took it out. When he came back in, I got out of bed and threw myself into his arms, hugging him. Honey, did I scare you yesterday? Benedict's body stiffened slightly. He looked down at me, as if wanting to say something, but in the end, he couldn't help but hug me back, letting out a low, deep I'm sorry for making you worry. I'll be more careful from now on. After saying that, I stood on tiptoe and planted a kiss on his cheek. Suddenly, the man pushed me away. I thought I had gone too far and made him dislike me, but I quickly noticed that his ears were actually red. A very noticeable blush. Benedict didn't meet my gaze. He reached into his pocket, and just as he took out a cigarette and lighter, he seemed to remember he couldn't smoke here and said, I have something to deal with at the company. I nodded obediently. Honey, go ahead and work. I'll wait for you here at the hospital like a good girl. When Benedict heard me call him honey, his cheeks grew even hotter, but he still didn't tell me the truth. Anyway, Leonhard wouldn't find out right now. I stayed in the hospital for a week. A scab had formed on my forehead. The doctor confirmed there were no major issues and told me I could go through the discharge procedures. I sat in Benedict's car, watching as he drove in the opposite direction of my home, but I didn't anything. Benedict brought me to his place. It was a spacious apartment by Moonvale Lake, located in the heart of the city where every inch of land was worth a fortune. Leonhard had once said he wanted to buy a place here and be neighbors with Benedict, but this area was filled with New Haven's old aristocracy, people with power and influence. Although Leonhard had succeeded in starting his own business and was now a rising star in New Haven's tech scene, in the eyes of these old aristocrats, a self-made man was at best a nouveau riche and not worthy of their attention. The old aristocrats were extremely exclusive. Even if they sold their properties, they were unwilling to sell to Leonhard. For a while, because of this, Leonhard was in a terrible mood. Even during meals with me, he was constantly making calls to pull strings. I even argued with him about it. I felt that as long as a house was cozy and conveniently located, there was no need to buy such an expensive place. It just wasn't worth it. But Leonhard believed that living here was a symbol of status. I gazed at the sunset over Moonvale Lake. It was truly beautiful. At this moment, I still felt the apartment was worth it. At least, being able to watch the sunrise and sunset here every day was a wonderful sensory experience. Do you want to rest for a while? The man hugged me from behind. A crisp, familiar scent of fur teased my senses, making my heart itch. 288 vouchers. I pulled his hands away, turned around, stood on tiptoe, wrapped my arms around his neck, and kissed his lips. A storm brewed in Benedict's eyes. He paused for a moment, then quickly pressed my head closer, taking the lead. Over the past few days, we'd kissed several times in the hospital. The man had gone from awkward and stiff to skilled and enthusiastic. All my senses trembled under his masterful and passionate touch. The man pressed me onto the sofa in the living room. Just when I thought I was about to succeed, the sudden vibration of a phone abruptly shattered the intimate atmosphere. Benedict lifted his head from my clothes, the corners of his eyes tinged red, a storm raging in his dark eyes. He braced himself above me with one hand, using the other to fish out his phone. Glancing at the caller ID, he prepared to get up. I wrapped my arms around his neck again, and, as he sat up, plopped myself onto his lap. Honey, don't go. Benedict's lower abdomen tensed, but he didn't push me away. I caught a glimpse of the number on the phone and became even bolder in teasing him. Benedict grabbed my hand, his breathing rough and hot, his voice hoarse and deep. Let me answer the call first. I obediently stopped moving. Only then did Benedict answer the call, his tone cold as he spat out two words. What is it? Ben, we're one short for mahjong. I don't have time. You haven't come out for days. That's not like you. Don't tell me. Honey, I'm hungry. The voice on the other end abruptly stopped, then quickly exclaimed, Ben, since when did you have a wife? Benedict hung up immediately. The other person didn't call back. Benedict's sharp, eagle-like black eyes scrutinized me. I didn't feel guilty at all and said angrily, after work, you should spend time with your wife. No going out to mess around. The man paused for half a second, then asked me, what do you want for dinner? Grilled steak, Caesar salad, and spaghetti carbonara. I thought Benedict would order takeout, but instead, he set me down on the sofa, got up, and walked to the kitchen to open the fridge. Curious, I quickly got up and followed him, watching as he skillfully took out ingredients and started washing them. You're not planning to cook yourself, are you? Without looking at me, the man washed vegetables under the tap and replied with a low, You can cook. Benedict looked up at me. How do you know I can't cook?
Me.
Was he trying to trick me into saying something? I forgot everything. I gave an awkward smile and, under his scrutinizing gaze, immediately started showering him with praise. Honey, I didn't expect you to be not only handsome and successful, but also a great cook. I must have saved the galaxy in my past life to find such a wonderful husband. I feel so lucky. The man's gaze turned amused, as if he was holding back a smile. My scalp tingled. I couldn't help but wonder if my acting was too clumsy. Could he have noticed something? But just now, he was clearly moved too. If it hadn't been for that phone call, I might have succeeded by now. Honey, I won't get in your way. I'll wait outside. You focus on cooking. I turned and hurried out. Once I was out of his line of sight, my mood finally calmed down a bit. With nothing else to do, I glanced at my phone. So many days had passed, and not a single person had called me. I couldn't quite describe how I felt. Maybe I had already gotten used to it. Inside the private room, after Neville put down his phone, someone next to him immediately asked, Ben has a wife now? Neville replied with a quiet, his brows furrowing as he stared at the phone screen. When did he get married? When Leonhard asked this, everyone shook their heads, indicating that none of them had heard anything about it. Logically, if Benedict got married, he would definitely send wedding invitations to his close friends. If he didn't give them any news, then it was probably just a fling. Leonhard didn't take it to heart. Just call someone else over. But Neville gripped his phone and didn't respond. Someone next to him nudged him. What's wrong with you? Neville looked up at Leonhard. I feel like that woman's voice sounds really familiar. It sounded a bit like Theodora's voice. But Neville didn't dare say that out loud. The person next to him was surprised. Could it be someone we know? Leonhard scoffed. It's just a fling. What does it matter if we know her or not? Neville thought about it and agreed, then immediately called someone else over. I thought Benedict brought me back, because he had some secret intentions. I wanted to sleep with him, and I was sure he wanted to sleep with me too. But unexpectedly, on the very first day he brought me home, he used the excuse that I needed to recuperate and insisted we sleep in separate rooms. At night, he even locked his door from the inside, so I couldn't get close to him at all. For this whole month, all I could do was stare at his lean, powerful waist, imagining the toned lines and abs beneath his shirt, and drool over the occasional look of desire and flirtation in his eyes. After all, it had been a long time for me too. I used to be loyal to my marriage, only had eyes for my own husband. Even if we went a month or two without sex, I could get used to it. But ever since I found out Leonhard was cheating, the moral shackles in my heart disappeared. He pretended to have amnesia just to cheat on me, so why should I stay faithful to him? Those few moments of intimacy with Benedict only stoked the fire of desire in my heart, making it burn hotter and hotter. But Benedict always stopped just short, even when I could tell he was about to lose control. He would still stroke my head, help me put my bra back on, then get up and go back to his room, closing the door behind him. He would stay inside for a long time before coming out. I knew he must have gone to take a cold shower. I could feel the chill radiating from him. I vaguely sensed that he was still concerned about Leonhard, his brother. But I just wanted to get back at Leonhard. The longer I dragged things out with this man, the more likely he was to come to his senses. I knew very well that I had to act quickly. Otherwise, where else would I find someone this perfect? Even if I was going to cheat, I had to find someone better than Leonhard. Only then could I really make him furious. After Benedict went to the company, I was left alone in the house, bored out of my mind. Other than scrolling on my phone, I had nothing else to do. When the text message came in, I was playing a matching game. Miss Turner, could you come out and talk? I wasn't unfamiliar with this number. Thinking of that video, the wave of disgust and suppressed anger surged up again. I knew exactly what the other person wanted from me. 288 vouchers. I replied with, okay. After she sent the time and place, I texted Benedict while on my way there. Inside the dessert shop. It was a weekday, so there weren't many people inside. As soon as I walked in, I spotted the woman sitting in the booth by the glass wall. After I sat down, the server came over to ask what I wanted to drink. I ordered a glass of plain water. Yolanda took a report out of her bag and handed it to me. I didn't take it, so she placed it in front of me. Miss Turner, I'm pregnant. The moment I heard the word pregnant, my mind went completely blank. It's Leonhard's child. Yolanda set down her juice, lowered her head to touch her still, flat belly, then looked up, both proud and pleading. Miss Turner, could you let me have this? Could you divorce Leonhard? The baby can't be without a father. I don't want my child to be born an illegitimate child. Please, just think of it as doing a good deed. I picked up the water glass in front of me and splashed it at her. Why should I let you have what you want? Yolanda bit her lip, her eyes reddening as she glared hatefully at the older woman across from her. It's not my fault your child is an illegitimate child. It's because he has a shameless mother like you, seducing a married man and being the other woman. If you, as his mother, don't think of him, why should I do a favor and step aside? But Leonhard doesn't love you at all now. What's the point of dragging out a marriage like this? Yolanda stared at the woman across from her, then suddenly curled her lips into a vicious smile. You know what? Leo told me he has no interest in you anymore. Even if you lay naked beside him, he can't get it up. Living with you, he can see his whole life at a glance. There's no excitement. It's pure torture. If I were you, I'd hurry up and get divorced while I still have some looks left and find another man. Otherwise, you'll be stuck living like a widow for the rest of your life. I thought I was already completely disappointed in Leonhard, but hearing those words, my heart still ached uncontrollably. So in his heart, I couldn't even spark the slightest interest anymore. So being with me was that painful for him. I gently set down my water glass. Even though my heart was in turmoil, I kept a calm expression. If Leonhard wants a divorce, let him come talk to me. After all, he's the one who cheated. As long as he's willing to give me a bit more of the assets, I'm not unreasonable. When she heard the words divide the assets, Yolanda's face fell. Just then, she caught sight of a man hurrying in through the door. Her previously proud and provocative gaze instantly turned pitiful. Miss Turner, I know I'm the one who hurt you, and I'm truly sorry. But the child is innocent. It's a little life. I really can't bear to abort it. You and Leonhard still don't have children. If you agree to adopt this child, you'll be his mother. I promise you, I'll leave. I'll go far away and never see Leonhard again. Please, I'm begging you, will you say yes? Yolanda got up from her seat and knelt on the floor. I don't want anything. Those expensive gifts Leonhard gave me before, I know they're marital property. I can give them back to you. I just want to keep this child. What are you doing? Leonhard shouted angrily, his expression grim as he strode over and yanked Yolanda up from the ground. I lifted my head to meet the man's darkened gaze. The marks scattered across my porcelain, white swan neck were especially conspicuous, the mottled red traces trailing all the way beneath my clothes. I did it on purpose. Yolanda had chosen a perfect spot. When Leonhard's furious eyes landed on those marks, his brows furrowed. Naturally, I caught that look in his eyes. Just then, I saw Benedict walk in as well. I immediately got up and greeted him. Honey. Hearing that word, honey, Leonard's heart suddenly tightened. Remembering that he was supposed to have amnesia now, he could only keep up the act as before. But before his cold words could leave his lips, I had already thrown myself into Benedict's arms. Honey, she says she's pregnant with your child. Did you cheat on me behind my back? Benedict lifted his eyelids and glanced at the two people beside us. He quickly understood and patted my back. That child isn't mine. But she even showed me the report. It's been 2 months. Fuming, I went to grab the report from the table. Benedict glanced at it casually, then looked up at Leonard, a faint smile on his lips. Congratulations, Mr. Parrish, you're going to be a father. Leonard's expression froze, but the next second he snapped out of it. Theodora, who are you calling honey? I turned my head to meet his gaze, my eyes puzzled and unfamiliar. Of course I'm calling my husband. Your husband. It dawned on Leonard as he looked at my hand wrapped around Benedict's arm, and Benedict showed no intention of avoiding it. Instantly, a surge of anger flared up in him, and he yanked me over. You don't even recognize what your own husband looks like? Who are you? Don't touch me, or I'll sue you for sexual harassment. I struggled to break free from his grip, but Leonard's strength was overwhelming. I couldn't pry his hand off at all. I could only call for help. Honey, he's bullying me. Come help me. Theodora, what the hell kind of game are you playing? She has amnesia. Benedict's cool, simple words fell like a verdict. The anger on Leonard's face vanished abruptly. What did you say? Benedict walked over, pried Leonard's hand off, and pulled me to his side. He said coldly, she lost her memory in a car accident. She hit her head and forgot everything from before. Leonard frowned. Are you two putting on an act? Do you think I have the time to do something like that? Leonard looked at Benedict's noble and indifferent demeanor. This was Benedict, after all. How could he possibly play along with a woman's act? Honey, is this person your friend? I looked up at him, puzzled. Benedict patted my head. You could say that. He keeps touching me, and I don't like him. Honey, can we go home now? Benedict nodded, took my hand, picked up the purse I had left on the card table and led me away. Leonard tried to chase after us, but Yolanda quickly stopped him. On the way back, my phone rang. Right in front of Benedict, I answered the call. As soon as I picked up, a man's furious, exasperated voice came through. Theodora, are you faking it or what? Yoli already told me. You don't have amnesia at all. You're just pretending. Benedict pulled the car over, took the phone from my hand and said, Leonard, if you have something to say, ask me. Stop harassing her. Benedict, she's my wife. What the hell do you think you're doing? We'll talk later. Benedict hung up directly and blocked the number. After dropping me off at home, Benedict left again. Golden Crest Club. Leonard drank as he told Neville about the ambiguous situation between Benedict and me. Only then did Neville realize that the sweet, delicate voice on the phone earlier had indeed been mine. But they couldn't figure out how I had gotten involved with Benedict. At that moment, the door to the private room was pushed open from the outside. Benedict strolled in at a leisurely pace. With a bang, Leonard slammed his glass down and stormed over, grabbing Benedict by the collar and demanding, Benedict, did you sleep with my wife? Thinking of the marks on her neck, Leonard was no naive boy. He'd been through enough to know exactly what those were. The thought of his wife being touched by Benedict made Leonard so furious he could kill. Leo, calm down. Let's talk this through. There must be some misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? He was all over my wife, right under my nose. Theodora has amnesia. Benedict stated the fact once again. Deep down, Leonard didn't want to believe I would betray him. After all, we'd known each other for 20 years. He knew how much I loved him, and he didn't really believe what Yolanda had said. If I had lost my memory, I would never have gotten involved with another man. When did this happen? A month ago, at Gracewell Hospital. You can check for yourself. Leonard thought back to the past month. Every time they called Benedict, he rarely showed up. So it turned out he was with Theodora all along. You took advantage of my wife's amnesia to sleep with her? Leonard gritted his teeth even harder. Benedict, don't you know you should never touch your friend's wife? You can play with anyone you want, but you played with my wife. I treated you like a brother. How could you do this to me? Leonard's eyes were red with rage as he swung a fist at Benedict. Benedict didn't dodge, and the punch landed squarely on his face. I waited until 11 o'clock at night. I figured Benedict probably wouldn't come back tonight. After all, people like him, these wealthy young men, surely have more than one place to stay. He didn't reply to my messages. I could sense it too. He was avoiding me. I turned off my phone, planning to go to sleep. Just as I was about to turn off the light, I heard the sound of the door opening outside. I immediately got out of bed, slipped on my slippers, and opened the door to go out. Benedict changed into slippers and walked into the living room. When he saw me, his handsome brows furrowed tightly. Why aren't you asleep yet? Honey, what happened to your face? One side of Benedict's face was a bit swollen. It was obvious he'd been punched. I hurried over, reaching out to touch him, but he grabbed my hand and pushed it away coldly. It's late. Get some rest. After saying that, he didn't look at me again and went back to his own room. I could guess who had hit him. Thinking of how on these recent days this man had taken care of me, I couldn't help but feel a little guilty. I took a hot towel, wanting to help him with it, but he had locked the door from the inside. I kept knocking on the door. Benedict found the noise annoying, but eventually opened the door. I followed him into the room. Benedict sat on the sofa, legs apart, a lit cigarette between his long, defined fingers. He smoked one after another, the pale blue smoke blurring his strikingly handsome face, making him look especially cold and distant. It was obvious to me that he was in a bad mood. 1,288 vouchers. I went to his bathroom, ran the towel under hot water again, wrung it out, then knelt on one knee on the sofa to apply it to his face. That pleasant scent of gardenia filled my nose. Benedict glanced at me. I wasn't wearing a bra. Suddenly, the man grabbed my hand. I looked up to meet his gaze, blinking. What's wrong? Benedict looked into my eyes, seeing the innocence and purity there. Thinking of what had happened today, he suddenly stubbed out his cigarette and tossed it into the trash can beside him. Then, with a forceful tug, he pulled me onto his lap. I thought he was going to get intimate with me, but instead, he just gripped my chin, forcing me to look up and meet his eyes. Under the bright crystal chandelier, the man's perfectly handsome face leaned in, his voice low and dangerous. Theodora, I can sleep with a married woman and help you get back at Leonard, but I don't want to take advantage of you. Looking at that face, both alluring and seductive, I felt my throat burn with desire, and the heat of his body beneath me. The man's dark, intense eyes were fixed on me, unblinking. I understood what he meant. I saw the sweat beading on his forehead and the obvious heaviness of his breath. I tossed the towel aside, wrapped my arms around his neck, and said, Benedict, you're not taking advantage of me. I know exactly what I'm doing. With that, I lifted my face and pressed my lips to his. Just as I expected, Benedict was more than satisfying. Although the first experience wasn't great, he had stamina, and his skills improved each time. Originally, I only planned to sleep with him for one night, but then I thought one night wasn't enough to make up for all I'd put in this past month. With his wolfish energy, we didn't leave the apartment for 3 days and nights. Even our meals were all takeout. Leonard called me several times. The moment I heard his voice, I hung up and I didn't reply to his text either. One evening, Benedict and I went downstairs, planning to find something to eat at the nearby shopping street, but Leonard blocked us at the entrance to the complex. Dora, Leonard threw a cigarette to the ground and crushed it underfoot, then strode quickly toward me. But before he could get close, Benedict stepped in front of him. Benedict, what the hell do you think you're doing? Benedict gave him a cool glance. Theodora is my wife now. Stay away from her. Your wife. Leonard was furious, raising his fist to punch again. Be careful, honey. This time, Benedict was quick and caught Leonard's hand. He turned to me and said gently, Dora, I need to settle something with him. Go back first, we'll go out later. I nodded, answering with concern. then don't get hurt. Benedict looked at me with doting eyes and said, okay, watching as I walked back into the complex. Benedict, we're brothers. How could you do something like this? Benedict turned and gave Leonard a cold, scrutinizing look. Brothers? Do you really think you deserve that title? Leonard's expression froze. If you hadn't married such a good wife, honestly, I wouldn't have even looked at your stuff. Leonard's face turned even uglier. Were you two involved from the start?
No.
Benedict let go of his hand, lit a cigarette, narrowed his deep eyes, and said with a hoarse laugh. We barely spoke a few words in all these years. Now that things have worked out, I really should thank Neville. He came up with a great idea. As Benedict turned to leave, he added cheerfully, she only forgot you. After I went upstairs, Leonard called me again. He said Benedict had lied to me, that he was my real husband. Naturally, I didn't believe him. He sent a lot of texts, but I didn't reply to any of them. Suddenly, my mom called and asked me to come home for dinner. As soon as I walked in, I saw Leonard sitting with my mom, chatting and laughing. The moment he saw me, he immediately stood up and greeted me warmly and gently. Dora. As if nothing had ever happened between us. But when I thought of that video and looked at his face, that physical feeling of disgust surged up again. When he reached out to take my hand, I avoided him. I had already guessed that my mother wouldn't call me back for no reason. Go cook in the kitchen. You and Leo have a good talk. In a cheerful mood, my mother headed to the kitchen. I immediately noticed several gift boxes on the coffee table. Hermes, luxury watches, cigarettes, and fine wine. No wonder. Dora, have you really forgotten me? Was it you who asked my mom to call me back? You refused to see me, so I had no other choice. Leo stared at me, his eyes full of sorrow and pain. Benedict really lied to you. I'm your husband. My mom can testify. He took out the marriage certificate from his pocket and handed it to me, then showed me the hand wearing the wedding ring. The ring on my hand matches yours. I had a designer custom make them for us. They're one of a kind in the world. I asked the designer to engrave our initials inside both rings. Afraid I wouldn't believe him, Leo especially pointed this out, and then, with deep emotion, he said, my forever lover, that's our vow. How familiar those words sounded. Not long ago, I had tried to win him back in the same way. Seeing me press my lips together and remain silent for a long time, Leo said anxiously, if you don't believe me, we can go to City Hall. And then, I believe you. Leo breathed a sigh of relief, but his face quickly darkened. Dora, Benedict lied to you. I won't just let go of what he did to you. Come with me to the police station now. I interrupted him. The young girl we saw at the dessert shop a few days ago, she's pregnant. Dora, it's not what you think between me and her. I didn't betray you. You've always been the woman I love most. I just got drunk and made a stupid mistake. I stared at the panic on his face. So, you cheated. I won't let that child be born. The position of Mrs. Parrish will always be yours. As for what happened to you, I know you lost your memory and were deceived by him. As long as you go to the police with me, I'll let bygones be bygones. We can live well together from now on. Let bygones be bygones.
Huh.
I don't remember anything from before. I glanced at the ring on my hand, closed the marriage certificate, and said with certainty, I don't know why I married you, but I'm sure I could never like a man like you. Theodora, we grew up together. You loved me very much. But now I don't remember any of it. I interrupted him again. Seeing his eyes turn red, I thought of how, 2 months ago, I must have looked just like this. No, I was probably even more heartbroken then, because at that time, my whole world revolved around him. I never imagined he would deceive me. I trusted and loved him so sincerely. Yet the man I loved stabbed me right in the heart. He probably wasn't hurting as much as I did. If we really grew up together, if you truly saw me as your wife, if you really loved me, then why, when I opened my eyes in the hospital, weren't you the first person I saw? Why weren't you the one taking care of me? Dora, you can't blame me for that. Leo said resentfully. It was Benedict. He had bad intentions toward you. He didn't inform me. If I had known you, I cut him off coldly, but you never called me. Not even once. As my husband. Didn't you know I hadn't come home for a whole month? If our relationship was really good, wouldn't we be living together? Leo's face turned pale as he nervously and guiltily explained. Dora, actually I was in a car accident before too, hit my head, so I forgot about you. And now you remember? Are you sure I'm your wife? Leo nodded quickly. Of course. We have a marriage certificate. But I feel like a stranger to you. Dora, come home with me. I'll help you remember. Suddenly, the phone rang. Leo took it out, glanced at the screen, and answered with a frown. What is it? Before his assistant could say anything, Yolanda's sharp voice came through. Leo, are you coming to see me or not? If you don't, I'll take the baby and jump off your company's building. Don't do anything crazy. After Leo hurried off, I had a meal with my mother, and then went home. Married tycoon cheats with subordinate. Mistress gets pregnant and threatens to jump when her demands aren't met. That night, this kind of scandalous news quickly made it to the trending topics on Twitter. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. People kept messaging me on WhatsApp and Instagram, and even the alumni group that had been quiet for ages was lively today. Dora, did Leo really cheat? See, men always change when they get rich. Even you and Leo couldn't escape this curse. Sigh. I don't believe in love anymore. Dora, I always thought you were so happy. Turns out every family has its troubles. If you feel down tomorrow and want to go out, let me know. You really can't pick a man who's too outstanding. Take my Grant, for example. He doesn't earn much, but at least he's devoted to me. A simple life is the happiest, don't you think, Theodora? I didn't reply. Just then, my phone rang again. It was my mother calling. I didn't want to answer, but I was curious what she would say now. 288 vouchers. Dora, did Leo cheat on you? I told you long ago to hurry up and have a child, but you wouldn't listen. Now another woman is pregnant first. If she gives birth to a son, what will you do? In the end, I was still disappointed. After hanging up, I blocked her number. I covered my face and burst into tears. Footsteps sounded behind me. A man embraced me from behind and sighed. Do you really love him that much? I didn't say anything. He gripped my chin, exposing my tear, streaked face to his dark, intense gaze. What can I do to make you like me? Looking at Benedict's gloomy face, I hadn't even reacted before he leaned down and pressed his lips harshly against mine. The kiss was heavy and rough, nothing like the gentle tenderness he had shown in the past few days. Under the man's fierce onslaught, the sadness and grief in my heart quickly dissipated. Drifting in and out, my eyes half open and hazy, I looked up at the man above me. I felt as if I finally understood Leonard a little. Sometimes it's not bad to try something different. The next day, I slept in until the sun was high in the sky again. Maybe it was because I slept well, but when I saw the messages on WhatsApp again, they didn't hurt as much. Benedict had already gone to the company, but he left breakfast for me. I sat at the dining table, eating while scrolling through Twitter. Suddenly, Adeline called. When I saw her name, my heart shrank a little. After I answered, I heard crying on the other end. Mom, Dora, if you want a divorce, Mom supports you. My nose stung, and tears fell. Mom, I'm sorry. It's not your fault, it's mine. I didn't raise Leo well. I'm sorry to you, so sorry. I wiped my eyes, my throat choked up, unable to make a sound. Dora, you don't have to feel burdened. Even if you divorce Leo, you'll always be my daughter. I said I wanted a divorce, but Leonard refused. He thought I was just suffering from amnesia, that I had forgotten my feelings for him, and that once I remembered, I would definitely regret it. He wore the white shirt I liked, took me to my favorite restaurants, walked with me in the parks we loved, and revisited our elementary, middle, high school, and university, recounting all the things we had done together over and over again. He was lost in memories of the past, repeatedly emphasizing how good our relationship had been. But I remained expressionless the entire time. Leonhard looked dejected and asked me carefully, "You still can't remember anything?" Looking at his face, it felt as if we were worlds apart. It hadn't been that long, but I seemed to have become very calm, calmly accepting this failed marriage. I looked up at the blue sky and white clouds above, and at the college couples walking by, holding hands. I watched the pure, sweet smiles on their faces. Once, I too had smiled so happily and blissfully. I don't think I regret getting married, even if the man I loved has now become hypocritical and ugly. But I had once possessed his most beautiful and purest days, and that is enough. I shouldn't punish myself for his mistakes. I should start a new life. Leonhard, actually Dora, can't we not get divorced? Leonhard pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly, begging, "Dora, I will treat you so well from now on. Even if you can't remember, it's okay. I will definitely make you fall in love with me again. Please don't fall for someone else, don't leave me. I can't live without you. Leonhard, you said before that you would die without me, but you still cheated." Leonhard's body suddenly stiffened, and his grip on me loosened. I pushed him away, looked at the anxiety and unease in his eyes, and smiled lightly. "Actually, I didn't lose my memory. I lied to you." Leonhard's eyes filled with disbelief. "Dora, what are you saying? Because you lied to me too, so I lied to you once. That's only fair." Leonhard's eyes reddened, and he said angrily, "So, you slept with Benedict to get back at me?" I nodded, sort of. "That night, I went to the Golden Crest Club and overheard your conversation with Neville. You said eating the same dish for 10 years was boring, that young girls were better in bed and more adventurous, and that I couldn't compare." Leonhard was furious at first, but after hearing this, his anger faded. He looked at me in pain. "It's my fault. I hurt you." "Yes, you did hurt me." I nodded calmly. "Can you give me another chance?" There was pleading in his eyes. I was silent for a while, then shook my head. "No, I can't." Looking at the brokenness in his eyes, I finally told him honestly, "Leonhard, I don't love you anymore." I wanted a divorce, but Leonhard kept stalling. I sent him that video from my phone and told him I could never pretend those things hadn't happened. Every second with him made me feel disgusted. In the end, he agreed to go to City Hall with me to get the divorce certificate. He was at fault for cheating during the marriage, so as compensation, he wanted to give me all the property and leave with nothing. I refused and asked for a 60-40 split of the assets. 60 for me, 40 for him. Because all those years, he truly had been good to me. Without him and Adeline, I don't think I would have lived any better than I do now. On the day we got the divorce certificate, Leonhard asked if I wanted to have a farewell meal. I refused, waved goodbye to him, and said we'd never see each other again. My mother didn't support my divorce, so after it was finalized, I didn't go home. I didn't take the marital home with Leonhard. I left it to him. After the divorce, I used my share of the assets to buy a new apartment. I moved all my things into the new place, planning to start a new life. Benedict would come over from time to time. Originally, I wanted to draw a clear line with him, but at my age, I still have physical needs. I wasn't planning to remarry for now, and compared to buying toys or hiring someone, being with him was definitely more enjoyable. Benedict said he was single, with no girlfriend, so I became his friend with benefits. Later, I got pregnant unexpectedly with twins. Our friends with benefits relationship became official, and we teamed up to raise the kids. Life could only go on like this. Leonhard's side story. After divorcing Theodora, I didn't marry Yolanda. I resented her. I hated that she sent the video of us in bed to Theodora. She made Theodora witness my betrayal, my disgrace, and my filth. But what I hated most was myself. Just as Neville said, the bad idea was his, but he didn't force me to cheat. A fly won't land on an uncracked egg. The reason Theodora and I ended up like this was because I brought it on myself. I couldn't control myself. I deceived Theodora. I deserved everything. I gave Yolanda 2 choices. If she insisted on having the child, I would pay her the minimum child support each month, but as for anything else, she shouldn't expect it. I would never marry her. In this life, I only love Theodora. Even if I die, my assets will only go to my mother and the woman I love. The woman who once cried and made a scene, even threatening to jump off a building to force me to marry her, decisively chose the second option. She had an abortion and took my $400,000, leaving my world. See? This is the woman who claimed to love me and couldn't live without me. How hypocritical. I know very well that I still love Theodora, so I planned to win her back. I knew Theodora was disgusted by me, but I was also sure that at her age, she wouldn't find a man with better conditions than me. Benedict would never marry her. I tried to win favor with my mother-in-law and asked old classmates to speak well of me. I created opportunities to run into her, believing that time could heal all wounds and that we would eventually get back together. But I never expected that a year later, Benedict would actually propose to Theodora. Theodora even gave birth to twins for him. On my mother's birthday, Theodora brought the children and Benedict over for dinner. My mother didn't want to see me, but I still went. Selfishly, I hoped she wasn't doing well. That way, even if she divorced and had 2 kids, I would still be willing to accept her. I could treat her children as my own. But Benedict never gave me that chance. He peeled shrimp for Theodora, remembered what she liked and couldn't eat, took meticulous care of the 2 children, and even treated my mother with great respect. After the meal, Theodora didn't spare me a single glance. Her eyes were filled only with her current husband and children. The gentle smile on her lips was both soft and piercing. It made me realize clearly that I had completely lost her. From now on, we would be 2 parallel lines that would never cross. After seeing them off, my mother, for once, sat down calmly and talked with me for a long time. She told me not to dwell on the past, to find another woman and live well, and not to make the same mistakes again. I didn't want her to worry anymore. I knew people had to look forward, and no matter how much I regretted or blamed myself, time could never go backward. Later, I dated a few more girlfriends, all very young women. But with them, I never felt the freshness I once had. I felt exhausted. I missed the marriage I had with Theodora, those years of mutual support and peaceful days. After my mother died of breast cancer, I dissolved the company. While sorting through my mother's belongings, I found her medical reports. My mother had known for a long time that she had a lump in her breast. The doctor had said that the mortality rate for breast cancer wasn't high, and if it was discovered early, it could be cured. But she didn't go to the hospital for treatment, nor did she tell me. My mother never forgave me. She always hated men who cheated. My father ran off with a woman from a salon, but more than 20 years later, when I became successful, he came back wanting me to support him. In the end, he collapsed at the mahjong table and never woke up again. My mother paid for his funeral. She said she didn't regret marrying my father. Even though she didn't have a good husband, she had a good son like me, and I even gave her a good daughter. In law, life is full of disappointments. Compared to others, she had already lived a good life. She was content. But in the end, I became trash just like my father. She must have been very disappointed. The first New Year, after my mother passed away, I got off work early and went home. The empty house had only me in it. I opened the bedroom and saw the wedding photo on the wall. Smiling, I said, "Honey, I'm home." But no one answered. The house was so quiet it felt suffocating. Every year on this night, Theodora, my mother, and I would make food together and watch the New Year's Eve party. What once seemed so ordinary now felt incredibly precious. I lay on our wedding bed. Even though Theodora threw away all our things when she left, I still managed to get them all back. Even when my stomach ached from hunger, I didn't want to move. Images of Theodora kept appearing in my mind. What was she doing now? Was she setting off fireworks with the kids? Or watching the New Year's Eve party with Benedict? Theodora and I once had a child too. But at that time, my business failed, my mother was hospitalized, and we still had a mortgage, so Theodora had an abortion. If only that child were still here. If I hadn't cheated, Theodora and I would be so happy now. When the New Year bell rang, I picked up a fruit knife and slashed hard on my wrist. Blood gushed out instantly, dripping onto the floor. I leaned against the sofa, quietly waiting for death to come. As my consciousness faded, I remembered what I said when I proposed to Theodora. But I only like you. Without you, I would die. Theodora, I wasn't lying to you. Without you, I really will die. Side story. Benedict's POV. Leonhard said I was a scoundrel, even coveting my good friend's wife. But I never considered him a friend at all. Who would ever see their rival in love as a friend? If it weren't for trying to steal his girl, I wouldn't have invested any money in him. Theodora and I were classmates in elementary school, but she doesn't remember me at all. Only I have always remembered her. I remember her paying $1 for my bread at the supermarket, and she even shared her yogurt with me. That was the most delicious breakfast I ever had. I wanted to pay her back, but Leonhard warned me, saying Theodora was his little sister, and told me to stay away from her, or he'd beat me up. My mother gave birth to me before marriage. Because of me, she broke with her parents and left home with me. Years of depression and poor health took their toll, and she passed away when I was in 3rd grade. I was adopted by my mother's close friend, who lived with us. When I was 12, my biological father sent someone to find me, wanting to bring me back to the family. Honestly, I didn't want to go with him. But my godmother struggled to find a good partner, and besides, I had my own selfish reasons. Just like my grandparents, they never liked my mother or me. But they were always warm and loving toward my aunt and cousin. Because my aunt married a capable man, and her in-laws were well off. As long as I had money and power, I was sure I could win my future mother, in-laws' approval, and marry the girl I loved. My father originally wanted me to study abroad. But when I found out Theodora and Leonhard went to Yale University, I went there too. My father was too much of a playboy, his health was failing, and in his 50s, I was his only son. So he couldn't really stop me. At the freshman welcome party, Theodora wore a red dress and performed a classical dance. Her slender waist and long legs left me parched. She really was perfect in every way, except her taste in men. I'm obviously more handsome than Leonhard and richer too. I was right under her nose for so long, yet she never remembered me. I even played the hero, driving away the thugs who were harassing her. But she still couldn't remember my name. So frustrating. When Theodora married Leonhard, my heart shattered into pieces. I really wanted to crash the wedding, but in today's law-abiding society, even if I took her away, couldn't keep her. I couldn't be her prince, so I could only be her knight. When I heard Leonhard was starting a business, I invested in him. When the shareholders had dinner together, I asked him to bring his family along. That way, I could sit at the same table as Theodora, and even added her on WhatsApp. Seeing her being so gentle and caring toward Leonhard made me feel as sour as eating wild dates. I didn't want to see her being good to another man, even if that man was her husband. But I still wanted to see her. That's just how self-destructive I am. I kept my secret feelings hidden, year after year, until finally, Leonhard lost his memory. I let Theodora find out about his deception. When Theodora got into a car accident, I was so scared my heart nearly stopped. Fortunately, she wasn't hurt, just had a bit of a problem with her head. She called me husband. That word, husband, sounded so wonderful. I brought her back to my place. Facing her temptations, I really wanted to strip her and have my way with her. But if Theodora remembered everything, she would definitely hate me. I didn't want her to hate me, so I couldn't take advantage of her. So every night, I locked the door to stop myself from losing control and giving in to my desires. Theodora texted me, telling me an acquaintance had asked her out. I knew some things couldn't be hidden forever. What was stolen would eventually have to be returned. I was terrified Theodora would find out I lied to her and end up hating me. So I rushed anxiously to the dessert shop. Leonhard and his mistress were there too. When Theodora ran toward me, I was secretly delighted and couldn't help but put my arm around her waist right in front of her husband. When Theodora accused me of cheating, my heart skipped a beat, and I quickly denied it. But when I saw the pregnancy test, I was overjoyed. Leonhard got his lover pregnant, yet still claimed his wife was his true love. To hell with wife. From now on, your wife is my wife. I won't let go. Theodora wasn't amnesiac at all. She slept with me. The first time, I didn't perform well, and I could tell she wasn't very satisfied. So I pulled her in for a second time, a third time. I could tell she actually enjoyed these things. So, to win her over, I even watched some videos to learn and improve. After Theodora divorced Leonhard, I confessed my feelings to her, but she rejected me. She thought that if I could hang out with Leonhard and Neville, I couldn't be a good person. Even coveting a married woman, what a jerk. So she wanted to draw a clear line with me, and told me not to bother her. Of course, I wasn't going to listen. I kept showing up every few days, looking for chances to stay over. If she didn't want to talk about love, I'd just get physical. Thanks to my persistent efforts, we finally bore fruit. Twins. If there had only been one child, Theodora planned to keep the baby, but not the father. But with two, she didn't want to reduce the pregnancy, so she had to make me official. Of course, I also showed her this diary. I am truly sincere. I love her more than anyone else in this world. From now on, the four of us will be a happy family.